I love doing that, making Commissioner Gardner jump each time. Mayor Pro Tem Gardner jump. Welcome, good evening. I now call to order our Board of Commissioners' regular scheduled meeting for November 19th. Welcome. Our first order of business tonight will be our invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance. I've asked Tracy Stevenson, our Public Works Director, to lead us in our invocation, and Joanne Crabtree, our Finance Director, to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Would you pray with me? Dear Lord, we thank you for this assembly tonight of people to come and do the business of our citizens, and we just ask that you would cover us all in your will and your countenance as we move through this business tonight to make sure that we make the best decisions that we can make for our town and as we move forward with your work. We just ask that you cover us all as we enter a holiday season soon where we're traveling and we're having all kinds of family and fun, that you just protect us and just make sure that we are able to enjoy our families the way that you would have intended to. And we just ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
If you will join me tonight in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Joanne, before you run off, I want to say a couple words about you to everybody who know about you. Scott, this microphone work down here? I didn't tell you about that. Thank you. For those of you that may not know in here, Joanne is our finance director, and tonight is Joanne's last meeting before she retires. And don't cry, I see in your eyes. Joanne has been an incredible finance director for Fuquay-Varina. And in May of 2019, when Joanne became our finance director, and you can see later tonight in a presentation for our finances and our audit how Fuquay-Varina continues to be a top fiscal community and continues to have a great transparency of finance. And so that all comes from Joanne right here in her department and what she does. And so, Joanne, I know we're going to be recognizing you next week, but I want to take a moment tonight and tell you how much I appreciate what you've done for Fuquay-Varina. I know the entire Board of Commissioners here appreciates what you've done. We cannot service our citizens in Fuquay-Varina without having sound finances. And that's what you've allowed for us to do. We have achieved a AAA bond rating under Joanne's leadership with us here also on our board. And so, Joanne, thank you for all your time. I know you're going to enjoy your retirement very much. Joanne has 4 daughters, and so I know y'all spend much time together enjoying that right there. But just want you to know tonight, and everybody in this room, to know what Joanne has done for Fuquay-Varina, how much she's appreciated, and how much we appreciate what you do, Joanne. Next item on our business is our meeting protocol. This time I ask the Town Manager Mitchell to review our meeting protocol for public participation as it relates to this meeting. Adam, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and board members. It's nice to be with you tonight. Tonight's town board meeting is both in person and live streamed on the town's YouTube channel and Facebook page. Tonight's meeting contains a public comment period and 3 scheduled public hearings. The public is invited to comment in person. When it is the appropriate time, Mayor Massengill will call on those wishing to address the town board. All attendees that have appeared in person to address the town board during the public comment period should provide your name and address on the green registration sheet by the podium prior to the public comment period beginning. All attendees that have appeared in person to address the town board during a scheduled public hearing should provide your name and address on the white registration sheet by the podium. We ask all those that wish to address the town board, either during a public comment period or a scheduled public hearing, to begin their comments by clearly stating their name and address for the public record. The public is asked to keep all comments to 3 minutes so that all that wish to speak may be heard in a timely manner. To be respectful of those that may have different views on matters addressed by the town board. We ask that all in attendance respect the decorum of the meeting by refraining from clapping, making loud noises, and generally showing support or displeasure for comments made during the public comment period or scheduled public hearings. Police Chief Smith will be asked to escort from the boardroom anyone not respecting this process, and it is the discretion of the mayor as presiding officer whether to continue the public comment or scheduled public hearings or not, if the meeting protocol is not followed. This concludes the protocol for tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Manager. Next item of business is the approval of our minutes from the October 22nd, 2024 regular scheduled Board of Commissioners meeting. Any changes or revisions to the minutes? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve as presented.
We have a motion.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Our first presentation tonight is a proclamation, item 4A, and this is for Small Business Saturday on November 30th. As many of you are aware in this room, hopefully everybody in this room is aware that Thanksgiving's coming up, and historically the Saturday immediately after Thanksgiving is Small Business Saturday, and so that's the time that you hear myself and this board often encouraging people to shop local and shop and support small businesses in Fuquay-Varina. So my request would be that every day you're supporting our small businesses, but pay a little extra attention on that Saturday right there. There's a lot of great businesses that we have here in Fuquay-Varina that would love to have your support and have great opportunity for presents to get your Christmas shopping knocked out of the way. You know, this year with a late Thanksgiving, Christmas comes very, very fast, so don't wait to the last minute. Amazon's probably going to take 4 or 5 months to ship anything, so the best thing you can do is support a local small business to guarantee that you get a great present right there for your family right here. But the small businesses are the backbone of Fuquay-Varina, and we're very, very proud of these businesses that are located here in our town. And this is my proclamation. Whereas the town of Fuquay-Varina celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. And whereas, according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 33.3 million small businesses in the United States, which account for 99.9% of all U.S. businesses. Nearly half of all U.S. employees are employed by a small business. And whereas 68 cents of every dollar spent at a small business in the United States stays in the local community, and every dollar spent at small businesses create an additional 48 cents in local business activity as a result of employees and local businesses purchasing local goods and services. And whereas Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our neighborhoods. And whereas advocacy groups such as the Fuquay-Varina Downtown Association, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now therefore, I, Blake Massengill, Mayor of the town of Fuquay-Varina, encourage the residents of our community to support both Fuquay-Varina Downtowns, the Fuquay-Varina Downtown Association, and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year, and do hereby proclaim November 30th, 2024 is Small Business Saturday in the town of Fuquay-Varina. That's coming up here shortly, as I said. Also, if you don't have presents you need yet, there's great restaurants to support any business here in Fuquay-Varina. We'd encourage you to do that, and so thank you. Next item on our agenda is a presentation, item 4B, presentation of Lieutenant Daniel Core, NCJA Leadership Certificate Program. More information about the agenda item will be presented by Police Chief Smith.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Tonight, Lieutenant Daniel Core is being recognized for completing the North Carolina Leadership Certificate Program. And to successfully complete this Leadership Certificate Program, it requires the participant to complete 400 hours of leadership training with the North Carolina Justice Academy Leadership Institute serving as the primary core requirement. The goal of the Leadership Certificate Program is to prepare criminal justice leaders to serve as criminal justice executives. This program is provided at no cost to the agency. So I will say with his completion, that makes 5 members of our command staff who have completed this program. So we believe in it. We're going to continue to send our officers through this program because we believe it's very beneficial. So congratulations to Lieutenant Daniel Kaur for completing the Leadership Certificate Program, and thank you for your initiative to professional development and growth. So I've got a certificate or plaque here to present to him. So again, thank you, and keep up the good work.
Lieutenant, thank you for taking the time to better yourself with this leadership training. 400 hours is no easy task right here. And for those of you that may not know, Lieutenant Kaur also has been a Fuquay-Varina resident your entire life or close to it, if not your entire life. And so being a lifelong resident of Fuquay-Varina, to be a member of our police department, risen through the ranks, and then take this time to continue to educate yourself and better our police department. Thank you for taking that time. This board here is very proud of you. I'm very proud of you. We appreciate it. We love to shake your, everybody love to shake your hand up here and take a picture with you, sir.
Congratulations. Appreciate you. Thank you. Good job. That's a good looking flag. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Manager, we can roll this item temporarily.
Yes, sir. The auditor will be here with us this evening to make a presentation. Unfortunately, or fortunately for their company, they had 2 audits to present tonight to 2 different communities. So she has presented to one and is on the way here. I recommend let's go into the public hearings, Mayor, or public comment, and perhaps even public hearings, and then coming back as soon as the auditor arrives.
We'll keep going, and if I don't catch you coming in, you just tell me when you came.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Public comment period. At this time, the town clerk will call on individuals that are in attendance and have previously registered to address the town board prior to the meeting. The public comment period is a time for the public to address the town board by any matter that is not the subject of a scheduled public hearing. Those speaking are asked to begin by clearly stating your name and address for the public record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or that all who wish to speak may be heard in a timely manner. Teresa, do you have anybody signed up?
We have 2 people. Pamela Perkins.
Pamela? Good evening, welcome.
Hi, good evening. I'm Pam Perkins. I live at 900 Atlantis Street here in Fuquay-Varina. So about a year ago, I sent a letter to all of you regarding the need for local animal control in the city of Fuquay-Varina. Since that time, the situation has really only gotten worse. I'm compelled to speak with you again and urge you to consider some common sense measures to help ebb the tide of lost, unwanted, and feral animals within our city limits. I'm aware that we rely currently on Wake County Animal Control to manage those issues for the city, but I've found that they are unable to take on the level of need within our community. Instead, we have a network of really dedicated volunteers who are spending their time, their energy, and their personal funds to try to control the situation. It's really an untenable solution to a growing problem. The volunteers are tired, broke, and really burnt out. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of feral cats living in our city limits that individuals work endlessly to trap, spay, and release. And every day there are posts shared of lost and found domestic dogs and cats needing rescue with no available options, as all the shelters and rescue organizations are at capacity. I'm asking you to do a couple of things that would lead the way in the humane treatment of animals with the enactment of some local policies and funding to support their care. The first would be funding a local animal control officer that serves the city of Fuquay in tandem with Wake County. Holly Springs currently uses this model with great success. I think part of the responsibility of that animal control officer should be working with state government and local veterinary professionals to bring the low-income spay and neuter options within city limits. Right now, the state government funds this, but the available options are generally 30 minutes to an hour outside of Fuquay. And even the available options are fully booked out for months, which is resulting in unwanted puppies and kittens being born before appointments can be filled. Finally, I'd urge you to develop some ordinance that prevent animals from being tied out for life. There are several dogs currently staked out in yards with no access to their basic needs and no laws to prevent that from happening. Even if this is legal to happen at the state level, I think we should hold ourselves in Fuquay-Varina to a higher standard and disallow that practice. The way that our community treats its most vulnerable, I think, is a reflection of its core values, and there are many things that Fuquay-Varina excels at that make it a wonderful place to live and why we've chosen to reside here. I would be really proud to be able to say that animal welfare is among those things. I and other volunteers would happily collaborate with the city to help make this happen, and I invite you to reach out to facilitate next steps. Thank you for your time. I did that perfectly.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am.
Yeah.
Teresa?
Emily Holloway.
Emily, welcome.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Emily Holloway. I live at 312 Andrew Road. I have 3 comments and 2 questions. First comment, quickly, I think that you are approving the speed limit to be changed on Andrew Road between Vance and Spring Street from 35 to 25 miles an hour, which would be a wonderful thing because people are flying down that street making lots of noise, and it's dangerous, and it should be reduced as you come around the curve on Vance Street to 25 miles per hour. Second of all, my comment is that we definitely need crosswalks at the intersection of Raleigh Street and Fuquay Avenue. It's part of the social district. A lot of people walking around, there's no crosswalks, and for the last 5 years, I've asked you to please try and make those sidewalk ramps compliant with handicap access, and they're still not fixed. So if you could get crosswalks and take a look at those handicap access ramps, they are not compliant. My third comment is about the trees that were removed along 401 by the Gold Leaf Crossing Shopping Center. We had some beautiful tall trees, pine trees, along the road. They've all been cut down, raised, so that it's a big open space. If you were to have left the trees, maybe with the help from Tree City USA, we would have shade, we would have light and noise blockage for the apartments from across the street. We would have a more attractive entry into the town, but they were all just raised, cut down, and I think they could have been left and been worked around, at least to provide a more attractive entrance into that shopping center. Also, they would have helped with the urban heat field when it's 95, 100 degrees in the summer. But I know they'll be replaced with small trees, which will take 10 years to grow in landscaping. But again, I wish we would consider more about saving some of the trees. I know we have ordinances, but I think that was really sad. My next 2 comments, one is about housing affordability. When is the town going to establish a housing affordable housing board to work with developers, to try and work with grants to get more affordable housing in this town? People cannot afford to live, work, and play here. In my neighborhood, there are homes $800,000, $900,000 now, and I live right downtown. We need to work with the community and the state to get affordable housing in Fuquay. I know it's a possibility. Apex has done it. Lastly, I'm very concerned about the development of the aviation distillery over there on Broad Street and the music venue area. I can hear the music on Andrew Road that's coming from their little venue behind there, but my big concern is the traffic. They're allowing that to happen, and there is no traffic on Stewart Street, North Street, and Broad Street. All those people are going to be coming in on 2-lane roads, 25 miles per hour. There needs to be infrastructure before they're allowed to open that facility. It is going to be a nightmare of traffic coming in off Main Street, Broad Street. I'm sure that you've thought about it, and I'm really surprised that you haven't put the brakes on that until you can get some kind of access with roads into there, because I've already had a businessman complain about that works on Broad Street. So I hope you'll do something about the traffic that's inevitable in that area once that place opens. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am. Teresa, do you have anybody else signed up?
No, not.
Okay. Now closes our public comment period. I believe I did see Auditor April a moment ago walk into the room. Yep, okay, perfect. April, I'll introduce the item and we'll be ready for you. All right, and circling back to presentation, item 4C, Annual Comprehensive Financial Report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024. More information about the agenda item will be presented by Finance Director Crabtree and April Adams with Cherry Beckert. Welcome. I know you've been on the run tonight, bouncing from town to town.
This is my third one of these today, but thank you for allowing me to be a little bit late. All right, let's see. All right, so doing the audit results of the June 30th, 2024 financial statements and compliance audit for the town. What I'd like to cover with you tonight is first just talk about the client service team, and that allows me to point out some important things about being your external auditor and how that works. Then I'll cover the results of the audit itself, including the single audit, which is the federal and state dollars that the town expends grant dollars for during the year, and so we perform a compliance audit over that. Then I'll talk a little bit about internal controls and what we do with those as a part of the audit, as well as how we report on those. And then the rest of the agenda is a lot of required communications that the audit standards that we perform your audit underneath require us to communicate to the Board of Governance as a part of the audit. So it covers lots of different things that did or didn't happen during the year and just kind of gives you an understanding of those items as I go through them. So we'll save that for when we get to those slides. So the client service team, the reason why I feel like this is important is because we are your external auditors, and so we are hired by you, the Board of Governance, and then we are required to report to you, even though most of the audit procedures that we're doing, we're working with management, finance, and other people across the organization. But we are required to report to you and answer to you as the audit proceeds. So I am the engagement director, and what that means is that I am the one that signs the opinions on behalf of the firm and takes responsibility for that. I'm the one that sets the audit plan and leads the team conducting all of the procedures. And so I had Michael Straney helping me as the audit manager this year, along with Elizabeth and Brian as the staff associates, and some other folks that aren't listed here, but those were the key members there. Daniel Goggerty performed what we call the quality review, and so every audit that Cherry Beckert performs requires someone of equal level of me to review behind me, specifically the single audit as well as the financial report itself, just to make sure that it adheres to all the standards and quality that the firm expects. All right, so the audit itself, we do conduct it in accordance with two sets of auditing standards. One is the generally accepted auditing standards, and then obviously the government auditing standards. And so that requires us to issue two separate opinions, one for each set of auditing standards. And so each one of those opinions is what we call unmodified. That's also known as a clean opinion. That is the highest level of assurance we can give you as an external audit firm that that your financial statements are free from material misstatement. And so that is the highest, that is the best results that you can get from an audit is to get an unmodified opinion. As I mentioned, we also audit your federal and state dollars. We audit those in accordance with the Uniform Guidance, as well as the North Carolina Single Audit Implementation Act. And then we issue two separate opinions, one for the federal side and one for the state side, related to all that work as well. And both of those opinions were clean, no findings were issued, and unmodified as well. So all four opinions, best results that you can get. As far as the single audit goes, these are the programs that we audited as major programs, and what that means is that we are looking specifically at those programs and grant dollars spent during the year and making sure that they are in compliance with all the requirements that we deem to be direct and material to that program. So we audited your SCIF grant again, we audited it last year, and then your highway planning and construction grant on the federal side. No findings were revealed as a result of those procedures and testing. Okay, as far as internal controls go, the audit standards require us to do a lot of work around internal controls and then report those results to you. We don't actually opine on your internal controls, but we do report if we find any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. The type of work that we're doing is identifying the significant transaction cycles. So if you think about the town, that's looking at how does the town receive cash, how does the town disperse cash, how does the town pay payroll? And then the last cycle that we deemed to be significant was how does the town get the information that's collected from all the transactions in your financial system, how does that get into that actual financial statement itself correctly? And so we're looking at the controls over that. We get all the policies and procedures and we review and look for key controls, and then we test a 1 from that. And then to further look at controls, we have the option as your auditors to actually test controls for operating effectiveness, meaning we're testing a sample of more than 1, and then relying upon that as a part of our procedures to gain assurance over those financial statement items. And so we do that for your cash disbursements, and we also do that for your payroll transaction cycles. All right, so as I mentioned, we don't opine on controls, but we report either material weaknesses or significant deficiencies if noted. We did not report any deficiencies that we believe to be material weaknesses. The audit standards don't allow us to say the same thing about significant deficiencies. We didn't report any, but that doesn't mean that there couldn't be some that exist because we only tested those significant transaction cycles. So you could have, or looked at those significant transaction cycles. So you could have other significant deficiencies that we just didn't look at as a part of our audit. So we can't give that full assurance between the both. But we did not report any. As far as corrected and uncorrected misstatements, that is also known as journal entries. And so as your auditors, we are on the hook to report to you any adjustments that might have occurred in your financial statements or didn't occur in your financial statements and might need to be there, what we call uncorrected misstatements. So we're required to report those to you from the time that Joanne and her team gives us the trial balance of the general ledger. And so we didn't have any corrected misstatements, so that means we didn't find any journal entries that needed to be made that got booked and are included in your financial statements. But we did come across one, what we call a past adjustment. This resulted from a management decision to record an estimate of what sales tax would be received in September in order to expedite the processing of your financial statements. And so obviously we didn't issue our report till November 15th, last Friday. And so we were aware of what the actual number was in September, and it was different from the estimate by this amount. And we decided and agreed that it would be okay not to book that to actual amount, that it wouldn't disrupt your financial statements materially. All right, the next couple of slides talk about qualitative aspects of accounting. These are just things we like to bring to your attention that you might want to think about in conjunction with your financial statements. The first thing would be if there was any significant changes in accounting policies during the year. There weren't any in this case, but when they do happen, it typically happens when there's a new accounting standard that's requiring the town to now record something differently. So if you think back to the last 4 or 5 years, we've had one every year that we've been implementing, one for leases, one for the technology arrangements, we've added pension, we've added OPEB. All of those were accounting policy changes as a result of a new accounting standard. So we were off the hook this year and didn't have one to implement, so no changes in accounting policies. As far as related party transactions go, we are required as your auditors to identify those, inquire about those, and look for those as a part of our audit. And what we're looking for is significant related party transactions, just to ensure that we test them and make sure that they are performed at arm's length and recorded correctly in your financial statements. We didn't identify any related parties that we felt like we needed to test. Similarly, for significant unusual transactions, we are looking for those and inquiring about them throughout the audit. The reason why we're doing that is because they would be material to your statements, and they would be something the town's not recording on a regular basis and maybe not be familiar with how to record it. So if that existed, you would want us to be looking to make sure that it was recorded properly. But we did not identify any significant unusual transactions as a part of this year's audit. Next topic is significant estimates. We are required to bring those to your attention within your financial statements because they are estimates. So they are what management's best knowledge and expertise provided a number as of the report date or as of the year end. And so the biggest ones, I've listed a plethora of them here, but the biggest ones are related to your retirement benefits. So your pension liabilities and then your health care your other post-employment benefits, which is basically your health care for your retirees. Those are your biggest numbers, and those are based on actuary reports, but those actuary reports are based on information that your team provided the actuary to create the number with. And then last would just be financial statements disclosures. I don't have any to bring to your attention that I feel aren't neutral, consistent, or clear. I do feel like if you were to pick up your financial statements and read them, that the footnotes, you would be able to understand what they're trying to tell you. As I mentioned, I am your external auditor, and our firm is required to maintain a level of independence from the town. And so we assess that at the beginning of the audit when we sign the engagement letter and get started. But we also evaluate that throughout the audit if we end up doing any kind of additional providing services that aren't the audit itself. So we call that non-attest services. The only thing that we do is help the town complete this data collection form. That's where we report to the federal government the federal dollars that were spent as a part of those grants and the audit results. And so we just fill out the form, and then there's an electronic submission that happens between ourselves and the town. So we just do that for you, but we don't feel like that violates our independence. All right, the next two slides have a lot of just various topics to talk about for required communications. First one would just be if we encountered any difficulties during the audit. We didn't have any difficulties. We also didn't have any disagreements with management during the audit. We did not reach out to any other auditors for any special items that we felt like we needed any kind of expertise for. And then management representation. This is an important item to me because our audit's only as good as what management represents to us in some cases. I mean, we can tie back to invoices and stuff like that for a lot of the things, but sometimes it's just management represents that this didn't happen or we didn't have this kind of transaction, those kinds of things. And so there's a standard list that goes with most audits, but then we also add things along that are specific to the town's audit itself. And so management signs that, acknowledging that we're basing our opinion based on things that they've represented to us. We are not aware that management consulted with any other accountants for any kind of special items or second opinions on anything. I don't have any other items or findings or issues that I feel like I need to report to you in conjunction with the audit. While our audit is not designed specifically for fraud or illegal acts, we are required to report to you if we encounter any during our audit, and I'm confirming to you that we didn't identify any fraud or illegal acts as a part of our audit. And then lastly, going concern, this is where we are required by the audit standards to determine whether we feel like the town's going to be here a year from our report date. And so I'm here to tell you with my crystal ball that you guys should be here a year from now. All right, other matters. This slide just talks about our opinion on the financial statements and all the things that are included in that report itself. It's just calling out to you that the supplementary information, which is talking about the individual funds within your financial statement that aren't major and they just kind of collect in the back of your report, we give an in relation to opinion. We kind of extend our opinion over that information because it does tie back to the basic financial statements, which we are opining on. And then as far as your required supplementary information, that is the management discussion and analysis that's up front. And then your the 10-year data related to the retirement benefits that you'll find just after the notes. That is all considered required supplementary information, and we don't provide an opinion on that information. We do review it to make sure it doesn't contradict anything, but it's not subject to our audit procedures. All right, and last slide for me tonight is just talking about those new accounting standards that are going to come up and become part of your new changes to accounting policies, as I referred to earlier. The one specific for next year is your compensated absences. There are currently compensated absences included in your financial statements, but those are vacation time that's been accrued and earned by your employees that will be paid in the future. This compensated absences is specific to adding on your sick leave, which is not currently recorded. And specifically only sick leave that the town will estimate that will be paid out in actual cash and payroll. So there's a lot of sick leave and time that gets accrued by your employees that ultimately gets used as service credits for the pension. We're not talking about that. We're talking about just how much isn't going to be used in service credits and how much will actually be part of the payroll in the future. And so management will work on figuring out what that number is. And then the others, I don't think will have a huge impact, but those will be evaluated as they get closer to actually implementing them. And now I'll be glad to take any questions.
April, thank you for this information, this report right here. If your comments make for it, you've been studying our finances. This is not your first audit studying our finances, and so I know you're well familiar with them and able to know what's going on from an outside view looking in. And the most important thing we do is managing the taxpayers' money. And that's what you're doing, is going back, verifying and making sure that the money has been spent like it was approved to be, and that the control processes are in place. And one of them is, I know we are required to have an annual financial report, but this one is a comprehensive financial report, which is a step further for transparency for our citizens. And so we're going above and beyond the minimum requirements by law. Is that correct?
Yes, you get what they call, gosh, I can't think of the word. It's called an ACFR, is the acronym. Yep. The comprehensive. What's the A?
The annual financial report.
The annual comprehensive financial report. That is, yes, includes additional information such as the transmittal letter, and then there's a statistical section included with that. And so that is above and beyond what the minimal financial statements would be that would be required.
Which is important for the public to know that. And speaking of those statistics, I know in your information that you provided here and into the report that was sent to us also, every one of the bare minimum statistical percentages we greatly exceed. And I know you also mentioned in that letter that between fund balance is the highest it's ever been, or close to it at least, from that standpoint of healthy. Now we're using it in some projects that have been approved, but that's still it's the largest healthy fund balance we've had before. And it's also correct, I read in your letter that we have the currently, Fuquay-Varina's current tax rate is the lowest tax rate it's been in the past few years. Or is that more what you have to comment?
Yeah.
Joanne, you sent that letter out?
Yeah, the statistical section.
Yeah.
This is the unaudited section that you're referring to. That's why I'm looking like deer in headlights. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's I think the lowest. I don't have it right in
Yeah.
front of me, but yeah.
In the report you sent us.
And that's the whole reason to have that statistical, because it's really good to look at the back of the statements and see that 10-year comparison. You can see the growth in population, and it's got tremendous amount of information in the back.
But I read it, and this was great for the public to know. We have
Yeah.
the lowest tax rate we've had in 10 years. We have the healthiest finances we've ever had, essentially, too. And then to top it all off, we've had an auditor come in, do an annual comprehensive financial report, which is more than the bare minimum required by law, and has also agreed that everything is like it should be. So it's positive. That's good. I'm glad. I want the public to hear that tonight. Here, make those comments right there. Thank you, ladies. Any board members have any comments they'd like to make or add to that?
How many municipalities do you do this for?
Me personally or the firm?
I'm wondering about you. You've done, we're the third one today. I'm just wondering, is it 3 or is it?
It's quite a bit. I also audit counties within the state and some authorities and those kinds of things. So it's probably around 35.
And as somebody sitting on this board, what would you recommend that we be doing to when we're presented these types of reports?
Reading it.
Read it, yeah, that's my point.
He was an accounting major. I pretty much let him read the stuff, and I trust him.
Yeah, no, I mean, it would be reading it. I mean, you don't have to read the whole thing. I mean, the management discussion analysis in there gives you a very high-level review. Do you guys do the PAF or the, okay,
We do the budget, but not
okay.
I know that you're looking for a motion from this board manager. Do you have anything you want to add to this before we
Yeah,
go to
just
that?
to a point you made earlier, Mayor, about fund balance, our unassigned general fund balance is roughly 62.5% of annual operating expenditures. So to your point earlier, we are a very sound, financially stable and healthy community as far as that goes. It gives us opportunities to make investments in services and make investments in public infrastructure, but it also gives us the opportunity to address an emergency situation should we ever have to do that as well. So we've got flexibility there. Yeah, Mayor, the recommendation tonight is to accept the annual fiscal year 24 annual audit report as presented. And I would, just before call on the board to make a motion, just want to recognize again Joanne Crabtree, our finance director, Nicole Stevens, our assistant finance director, is in the room. Our entire finance department put a lot of hours and energy and sweat equity into making sure that our auditors had the information that they needed in a timely manner, the accurate and appropriate information so that they could do their work and give that opinion to the town board tonight. So definitely want to give credit to Joanne, Nicole, and the team for their effort.
That's very true, Manager. I mentioned earlier tonight, Joanne's retiring. It's her last meeting tonight, but you have a great team in your department that works together to bring this information. And as mentioned earlier, for the public, the auditor has to note if staff won't cooperate, won't give her any information. You heard that how great y'all work together on that. So thank you both and your entire department for that. Commissioner Harris, I think you had a comment you
I
want to
just
make?
had a question. Earlier this month, I had the opportunity to attend a Helene Recovery Special Convening up in Morganton. And the session involved those municipalities who had been impacted by the storm. And one of the recommendations that really hit home, and I think this is an appropriate time to raise this question, was that because of the devastation of the infrastructure and the total financial capability, a lot of the municipalities, even though they had general fund, they didn't have cash on hand. And some of them literally ran out of cash. And they talked about the importance today of municipalities not only having a strong general fund, but having cash on hand in case of emergencies, because some of them literally thought they had enough money or cash on hand, but when it came to having to buy water or to do other things in regards to municipal services, they just about ran out of cash. And they talked about the devastation and the impact that had not only on the employees who could not get paid, but also the citizens who couldn't receive services. So one of the things that brought to my mind was the idea of, if we have a cash management policy, or do we have any idea of a substantial amount of funds that we should keep on hand in case of an emergency situation where we don't have access electronically. And I don't know if that might be something we can discuss in the future, or.
Well, a couple of meetings ago, we had the fiscal policies. We did an update to those. I don't know if you remember that. But we added to not only our general fund, but our utilities fund, and making sure we have cash available, not out of a bank or an institution, because they're there, it's there. But when we gave the percentage of unassigned fund balance as a percentage of your expenditures, that unassigned cash has not been appropriated for a particular project or have any other restrictions on it.
Okay.
So by having the 60%, you do have that cash available in an event that any kind of weather or any other significant event that would come up that you would need cash. So yes, because there are some towns that have much less, down, I would hope none under around the 25, 35%. Then you don't have that cash flow. So that's why it's important to keep, and we do have those percentages and those fiscal measures, which I gave you, I think, in that spreadsheet.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so that, anyway, we do have those policies saying what our recommendation, and we are well above them.
Okay, one of the other things that they mentioned was the accessibility of that, because when there was a total shutdown, that there was no way to even get to the monies that they had on hand, and I don't know how
You mean
would-
to the bank
to the
or
bank
whatever?
or anything like that. I don't know how we would handle that if we had a catastrophe like that lasted longer than our expected time. What would we do as a municipality in order to continue to function? Because from what I understand, those towns there in the western part of the state, that is what they had to contend with.
Right.
Unknowingly, and they thought they had enough fund balance of cash
Well,
on
we
hand, but they just did not.
Right, and we have our cash in our central depository, which is locally, but we also have invested in the North Carolina Capital Management Trust.
Okay.
And so it's invested there, but it is still liquid, so that when we need it, we could draw that money down.
Okay.
And so we have the contacts, and, you know, they are aware who the finance director is, and Nicole has talked with them as well. So if it came to that, we could call them, and they would help us make arrangements to get what we would need to do that. And so we even,
Yeah, and
you
I was
know,
just
that
going to add
part
to
of
it, we
our-
don't do any transactions in physical cash anyway, and so for more immediate purchase needs, we would do that through our purchasing cards that we have through our banking institutions. For more significant contracts and acquisitions, we would defer back to the plans that are in place, as
that-
Joanne mentioned.
Sort of a tier approach, that the first would be this.
Yes,
then
sir.
you would- Okay.
That's
All right.
correct.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to bring that
Oh, yeah.
up as a
Very
discussion.
important.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir, Commissioner. We entertain a motion so moved to accept the report.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, ladies, very much. Joanne, thank you for an absolute incredible career and great team right there. Thank you, ma'am. Come back anytime. That's right. We know you are. You know you are. Thank you, April, too.
Thank you.
No items tabled from previous meetings. Next, we'll move into public hearings. Public hearings are a time for the petitioner to present his or her request and for the public to give input and voice their favor or opposition to the request. If you wish to speak and are physically in attendance, please step forward to the podium one at a time. Provide your name and address on the registration log at the podium, and clearly state your name and address for the public record. We ask all those addressing the town board to please limit your comments to 3 minutes in order that all who wish to speak may be heard in a timely manner. First public hearing, item 7A, 2040 Comprehensive Transportation Plan, Town of Fuquay-Varina, CTA 2024-04. More information on this agenda item will be presented by Planning Director Davidson. Pam, you're on the seat.
I'm it.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm submitting the agenda abstract and the supporting documents into the official record of the town. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider adoption of the 2040 Comprehensive Transportation Plan. As you can see, we're at the finish line and ready to present the CTP for adoption. Staff have been working on this update since the fall of 2023. Brief reminder, the CTP serves to incorporate and plan for all modes of transportation, including vehicular, pedestrian, bicycle, and transit. The purpose of our plan is to establish a vision, identify needs and deficiencies, recommend specific projects and strategies, create an action plan, and provide guidance for funding, coordination with future projects, and shape policy decisions. Our CTP update included 2 phases of public engagement. The goal of Phase 1 was to raise awareness, confirm the vision, and identify needs for the different modes. The Phase 1 engagement included 2 steering committee meetings, a variety of targeted stakeholder meetings, a pop-up event at last year's Celebrate Festival, a public workshop, and a month-long online survey on Let's Talk FV that generated over 500 participants and over 225 mapped comments. The Phase 2 engagement focused on informing and educating the public about the recommendations and receiving feedback on the recommendations, as well as project priorities. The Phase 2 engagement included 2 more steering committee meetings, a pop-up event at the Growers Market, 1 public workshop, a month-long online opportunity to view and offer feedback on the draft recommendations on Let's Talk FV that generated over 400 participants. In the end, over 1,700 people have visited the CTP website since the update began. The 6 guiding principles were established during the 2035 CTP development, and we're carrying them forward in this update. They establish a vision and help us focus our priorities throughout the planning process. We ask people to rank the guiding principles based on the results shown here. You can see that safety and security were the #1 priority. While all these principles are important and will be represented in the outcomes of the plan, ranking them helps us better understand the current priorities. As part of establishing these existing conditions, we updated our demographics, confirming that Fuquay-Varina has grown significantly since 2017 and that we continue to grow. Not that it was a surprise, but here we also documented the commute patterns showing that more people live in Fuquay-Varina and travel out to work, and the car is still the dominant form of transportation. To establish a baseline, we determined the current annual average daily traffic volumes along our major and secondary roads. Since this project has been underway for over a year, the 2021 numbers were used. Even though the 2023 numbers were just released at the end of September, it was determined that updating the base numbers would not significantly alter the results of the modeling. Then we forecast what the resulting 2050 peak hour congestion would look like if no changes or improvements were made. So you can see the greater traffic as the orange and red colors. This map shows what the 2050 peak hour congestion would look like if all of our current and committed projects were completed. And then this map shows what the 2050 peak hour congestion would look like if all the recommendations of this plan were implemented. You can see congestion would be substantially reduced. This map demonstrates intersection crash hotspots. The roadway recommendations and revised cross-sections work to create safer roads and intersections for pedestrians and bicycles, as well as vehicles. Knowing where these hotspots are provides valuable data that can help inform intersection and roadway improvements. The 2050 CTP update works to expand the integration of multimodal transportation opportunities for pedestrians, bikes, and transit, as shown here. This plan highlights both recently completed projects, like NC 540 and the Judd Parkway Loop, as well as programmed projects, including the NC 55 extension. You can also see that several intersection projects are either funded or under right-of-way acquisition that will all serve to improve overall traffic circulation. The project team developed new and updated recommendations to account for safety, congestion, and connectivity issues. This is a key tool used to communicate our needs to developers and engineers and ensure road improvements work to serve the future needs. Building from the current plan, some of the improvements shown here have been carried over from the 2035 CTP. A future map in this presentation will show the significant changes between the current and proposed plans. On this map, green represents corridors that in the future will have a median. Orange roads incorporate a level of modernization that could include rehabilitating and restriping roads, lane reconfiguration, shoulder additions, and curb and gutter enhancements. Blue roads are a new location or alignment, and purple suggests added lanes. This map shows intersections recommended for intersection improvements. The improvements vary depending on the identified use. Putting money into key intersections has been a big part of the town's recent investments. We are excited to incorporate new cross-sections. They serve to accommodate a broader vision for multimodal transportation and micro-mobility options that align with broadly used state and national standards. They expand the use of collector roads to complete origin to destination continuity, and they streamline and unify the LDO, the town specs, and the CTP, as well as integrate traffic calming consideration into our local roads. This map shows our new cross-section palette. The updated cross-sections improve uniformity and modernize the roadway elements. We also coordinated with our neighboring municipalities to make sure transition points maintain both municipalities' circulation goals. The CTP includes easy-to-understand diagrams for all cross-section types and will directly cross-reference the town's engineering specifications for more detailed information. This map highlights the additions and modifications proposed with the 2040 CTP. Red provides added capacity and is applicable only to NC 55 north of Judd Parkway because of the U5751 project. Orange reflects an altered alignment in response to proposed developments, to lessen environmental and historical impacts, and to reduce significant impacts to individual small parcels. Green identifies existing roads that have been upgraded to collector road status, so in the future they can serve a higher volume in anticipation of future development. Purple are new roads being planned by others, like the NC 55 extension and the US 401 bypass. Blue reflects new collector streets, generally in response to a previous collector being removed. And dark gray are collectors that have been removed from the plan because they were constructed or may have been determined to be infeasible due to environmental challenges. The town also recently expanded our cross-access and stub road requirements, so some of these connections that were previously identified to be collectors will serve adequately as connections. The green and yellow lines show existing facilities, while the blue and purple lines demonstrate how the network of greenways and side paths will serve bicycle and pedestrian needs in the future. While this CTP update expanded pedestrian facilities on both sides of all future road sections, a careful inventory of our existing roads and sidewalks was performed, resulting in several road sections further out from the development core being shifted from side path to sidewalk. Here you can see the orange represents existing sidewalks along our main corridors, and the blue facilitates a future network of sidewalks. Sorry, I got ahead of myself there. The major bike ped facility types shown here are the sidewalk, side path, and striped shoulder. While sidewalks are self-explanatory, side paths function as a multi-use path supporting the Wake County Greenway System plan for shared facilities and providing a shared facility for pedestrians, bikes, e-bikes, e-scooters, and other micromobility devices. The striped shoulder serves as more than just a bike lane, also providing room for emergency pull-offs, space for emergency vehicle maintenance, and can even help with drainage issues. We already incorporate wider outside lanes in many of the current cross-sections that can be used by bikes. The striped shoulders shown here do not require any more right-of-way or pavement width, so they can be accommodated on existing roads with future restriping. The freight and rail information are drawn from the Triangle Regional Freight Plan. In addition to the current FRX Express route from South Park parking lot to Wake Tech and Raleigh, town staff will continue to explore opportunities to implement a micro-transit system, a town circulator, or express service to Holly Springs that could provide additional connections to Apex, Cary, and RTP. A potential microtransit system will be presented later this evening. It was determined that identifying priority corridors would be more valuable than calling out specific projects for long-term planning, which is what is depicted on this map. These priority corridors will guide decision-making, local funding, and regional advocacy. Identified corridors also score well with Campo, qualifying for funding opportunities. 25 projects have been completed and or funded by the town or NCDOT since the implementation of the 2035 CTP in 2017. In summary, the 2040 CTP validated many of the assumptions previously made with the 2035 CTP. Since many of the transportation projects identified in the 2035 CTP have either been constructed or upcoming committed projects, staff confirmed that the 2035 CTP directives are working to serve our growing community and the increasing traffic demands. In the last 10 years, the town board has approved over $100 million of transportation projects. We are confident that the proposed CTP updates will continue to serve our transportation vision, shaping policy and program decisions into the future. For additional information, at the July 15, 2024 regular meeting, the Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval. Since then, the public comment period has concluded and all relevant comments were incorporated into the document. In addition, The town's land development ordinance authorizes the engineering director to periodically revise and clarify the town's specification book. The attached memorandum outlines recent updates and includes the revisions to the street cross-sections. These changes align with the updates to the 2040 Comprehensive Transportation Plan, and after tonight's meeting will be posted on the town's website. Both the consultant, Kimley Horn, and the town's engineering staff are here with me tonight to answer any specific questions. The suggested motion tonight is to approve CTA 2024-04, an update to the 2035 Community Transportation Plan, which has been renamed the 2040 Comprehensive Transportation Plan, as presented and recommended, as it is reasonable and in the best interest of the public for the reasons identified by management and staff. Again, I'm available for questions as well as the consultant and the engineers.
Pam, thank you for your presentation. I know there's been a whole lot of public feedback involved with this, and it's been going on for several months, just as you laid out in the calendar timeline. And so, and this board's taking feedback too. So thank you for your time involved with our consultants, and we'll have a public hearing tonight to see if anybody wants to add anything else to it. So thank you. The hearing is now open. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of the 2040 Comprehensive Transportation Plan update? Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to the 2040 Comprehensive Transportation Plan update? Hearing's now closed. I think that shows there's been a lot of public input involved with this right here. I'm not having anybody speak for it here tonight. This is updating, modernizing our rules and where we can continue to expand our transportation network, and the public can understand what's getting built, and also developments that come to town can understand expectations that are out of them on that. Any further discussion by board members? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve CTA 2024-04 as an update to the 2035 Community Transportation Plan as presented and recommended, as it is reasonable in the best interest of the public for the reasons identified by management and staff.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda, public hearing 7B, Town Code Amendment, Town of Fuquay-Varina, Land Development Ordinance Amendment Number 28, CTA-2024-03. More information by Planning Director Pamela.
This was much shorter. I'm submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents in the official record of the town. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider a proposed text amendment to the Town Code of Ordinances, Part 9 Land Development Ordinance, Amendment 28, that addresses several areas for improvement. The following revisions highlight the changes proposed: correcting terminology and updating standards as they pertain to the Comprehensive Transportation Plan and the town's standard specifications and construction detail updates. Form-based streets have been removed from the LDO, as the recommendations from the CTP update include flexibility for all street types and needs. Tables and figures that have been outmoded by the CTP update have been removed from Appendix B. Updates to the beekeeping standards match the new state statutes. A rewrite of the food truck section and the introduction of food truck campuses as a new use. New standards for residential amenity buildings to be exempt from certain commercial building standards. And an introduction of a new Type A+ buffer, which is intended to provide an increased visual barrier and added privacy between large lot single-family development and other development types. At the October 21st regular meeting, the Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval with the removal of Article M, Section 9-1602 General Standards, A, Street Access and Design Standards, Orphan Road Improvements with New Development Stub Connection. This section was removed from the amendment and will be further developed by staff and presented to the board at a later date. The suggested motion tonight is to approve CTA 2024-03 Amendment Number 28, an amendment to the Town Code of Ordinances, Part 9 Land Development Ordinance, as presented and recommended by staff. The text amendment improves upon the Land Development Ordinance and is reasonable and in the best interest of the public for the reasons identified by management and staff. I am available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Director Davidson. Welcome to the public hearing. The hearing is now open. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of the Town Code Amendment? Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to the Town Code Amendment? Hearing is now closed. Any discussion by the board? If not, what's the pleasure of the board?
I have a couple of questions, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner?
Just a couple of questions for clarification, if you don't mind. In the item, I think it would be under Article S, interpretations and definitions, when you, wait a minute. No, let me go to, when you look at a daycare, in-home daycare, I know that verbiage, that language had been changed. The initial rule required that in-home daycare operators have approval from the Department of Health and Human Services, and that's been taken out. Is that those numbers? The reason that was taken out was because it is compliance, or the rules from the Department of Health and Human Services has changed, because it says there will be permitting, but the permitting is coming based on the interpretation from the town, or is it through the approval of the state? That was not clear.
So there are two very separate things.
Okay.
One is that the state licenses, and so some of these changes were in response. The state has greatly expanded what is allowed to be an in-home daycare to significantly higher numbers.
Okay.
So basically, you would still go under whatever the state's requirement is for that number of children or adults. The state is still the one that will be licensing that as a use. We are the one deciding whether that is a permitted use in that specific facility. So while the state greatly expanded the number of children that you can have in an in-home daycare specifically, we did not feel comfortable that just a home occupation permit was necessarily applicable to a house that was watching 12 children. That could be a pretty significant impact to the neighbors.
I agree.
And that's where we divvied it up now. So we have, and we also added adult daycare, because that's something now that the state has really expanded their use on. So this applies to both daycare for children as well as daycare for older adults, for seniors. And then basically we divvied it up that the smaller version is applicable for a home occupation permit. The larger version, larger numbers, would then require a special use permit. So you would then be required to have neighborhood meeting with your neighbors, inform them what you're doing, and then also justify that you have, you know, the parking and the drop-off and all those things, that you wouldn't become a nuisance to your neighbors. So where the state is still required, when a state license is required, it is still applicable. We are not getting in the way of any state licenses. We are just looking as to when that use is applicable to the actual the home.
Okay, all right, thank you, thank you. One other comment.
Yes, sir.
And in the section where it says street name change, I noticed the prior requirement was that there would be a legislative, that the request would be presented to the town commission and it would go through a legislative process. But your recommendation is that go through the planning department now, as opposed to coming to the town board for approval of a street name change?
That is correct.
What was the discussion about that? That's sort of a drastic change from a policy to a staff decision.
I believe it's just what is required by the state statutes. We are allowed to do these street name changes without necessarily going through all the formal procedures.
Okay, all right.
And a large part about efficiency, just moving it through a process faster without having to wait every 2 weeks for a board meeting.
Okay, thank you. Those are my two questions, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Harris. Any other further comments? If not, we'll entertain a motion so move.
Mayor Massengill, I move that we approve CTA 2024-03, Amendment Number 28, an amendment to the Town Code of Ordinances, Part 9, Land Development Ordinance, as presented and recommended by staff. The text amendment improves upon the Land Development Ordinance and is reasonable and in the best interest of the public for the reasons identified by management and staff.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Director Davidson. Final public hearing tonight, item 7C, Downtown Mixed Use Development Project, Town of Fuquay-Varina and HMP Holdings. Development Agreement, Local Incentive Agreement, Purchase Sale Agreement, and Parking Agreement. More information about the agenda item will be presented by Junior Deputy Manager Seymour.
Mayor, Board, good evening. Very happy to be before you tonight to talk about this transformational project. All of you are aware we've been working on this project for a while. It's gone through several reiterations, and again, very glad to be before you tonight. So again, the purpose of the agenda item, as the mayor had mentioned, is to approve several agreements that are needed in order to advance the downtown mixed-use development project that we've been talking about for a while now. So again, the project is located right behind you, includes the town 2.5 acres, and we're also going to be talking about 3.65 acres. So it includes this entire block. 2.52 of that is town-owned, and then 3.65 of that is owned by a private entity. We'll talk about that in a minute. So again, a little history and backstory on this. Over the last couple of years, we've been working to acquire property in order to ready the box for future development on this site. Back in July 2023, we issued an RFQ soliciting qualified developers to construct and fund a mixed-use development project. After that process, we ultimately selected HMP Holdings LLC as the preferred developer, and this was based on their ability to complete the project and their experience developing these types of projects. They've got a great footprint throughout the Triangle region. A couple of their projects that they've worked on: Edison Sky House, a 23-floor high-rise residential tower in downtown Raleigh with 320 residential units and 6,500 square feet of ground floor retail. 400H, 400 block of Hillsborough Street, consisting of 20 stories, 242 apartments, 16,000 square feet of ground floor retail, restaurant space, 150,000 square feet of office, and a 645 space parking deck. So obviously a qualified developer to undertake the project that we went out to bid and requested developers to build. So one of the other things that made this project, or made HMP Holdings so attractive to us, is that they proactively, upon responding to the RFQ, now the town's RFQ initially had 2.52 acres, which is this property located here on Main Street, in front of Main Street. They proactively approached the adjacent property owner, Jones Fuquay property, or excuse me, Jones Street Properties, Ben Ho, the property owner here, who is in the room tonight, to make that 3.65 acres part of the project, ultimately bringing the total project size to a little over 6 acres. So again, understanding how we can maximize development opportunity on that site is very important, and the developer, proactively sought that and realized the bigger picture in trying to procure this project. So again, overall, the project, we are envisioning a 4 to 5 acre vertical mixed use project on this site, a 0 lot line, ground floor commercial. You can see here in the concept rendering, a lot of that retail would be a 0 lot line against Main Street in the corner of East Academy. Up to 244 apartments, that is what is being proposed. 20,000 square feet of commercial retail restaurant. Again, the focus of this non-residential space will be primarily on restaurant, the outdoor, indoor dining experience, bringing people that public gathering space to downtown. And again, 420 space town-owned parking deck. What you see here on the left is the property in yellow is the town property. Again, that's what we initially went out to RFQ with. And then the property in red is the private sector property. That's at 3.65 acres owned by the adjacent property owner. And of course, Town Hall. And then here on the right-hand side, you'll see the concept where you see the residential development, you see the multifamily units, and then ultimately that is all embedded within a structured parking garage. So let's talk a little bit about the agreements for which we're asking you all to consider tonight. The development agreement defines the project scope and obligations. Throughout this partnership, this public-private partnership, what is the town responsible for doing and what is the developer responsible for doing? Talking about a 420 space parking deck, how that's to be constructed and who's to own that. Again, the parking deck is being proposed to be constructed by the developer, and ultimately upon its completion, the structure and the land that it will sit on would ultimately be conveyed to the town. The town would be agreeing to fund up to $10.5 million to fund the town-owned parking deck, and we'll talk more about that as far as parking operation and logistics in just a minute. Also, the purchase sale agreement, which is before you tonight, where the developer will acquire the property from the town for $3,409,232. That is acquiring the 2.52 acres of town-owned property, and that price includes an appraisal, a property appraisal that we had done on the property, in addition to the costs that we've incurred for demolishing the buildings on that property. And as the developer goes through their due diligence, and then ultimately when they close on the property, one of the elements of this agreement, which we've done in a lot of our other agreements when we've done these type of land transactions, is in the event that after closing, the developer, for some reason, is unable to perform and undertake the project within a certain time period, the town would have the opportunity to repurchase the property that it sold to the developer at that $3.4 million amount. So just in the event, I'll point out Greg Sandreuter, who is the developer or the managing partner for HM Property Holdings, and we've had a lot of great conversations and great philosophies. We have every bit of expectation that the project will move forward, but again, legally, we just want to make sure that the property and the investment the town has made on that site will always be protected, because again, at the end of the day, that's a strategic site for this type of project. An incentive agreement. In order to induce the developer to undertake the project, the town is offering a $3.3 million incentive grant. This grant would be reimbursed after completion, and the project is then evaluated by Wake County. So the developer will have to cause a capital investment resulting in at least $70 million in increased assessed taxed value. So right now, you take approximately between the private property and the town property, there's 11 or 12 there are 12 parcels, and that total property value is around $7 million. So in order for the developer to qualify for the full $3.3 million, he's going to have to make a capital investment. Then after that is completed, it is going to have to be assessed and valued at a net of $70 million. So basically, if you take those 12 parcels and look at the total tax value, it will have to be at least $77,500,000. And capital investments made by August 31st, 2029. So the parking agreement, again, we're talking about a 420 space town parking deck. What we're considering is reserving, on behalf of the developer, 320 of those spaces for the residential parking and the commercial uses. So obviously, the residents using that parking for overnight parking, those that will park and live there, but then also the commercial uses as well, whether you have a manager of a restaurant, you have employees. So embedded within that 320 space allotment, it would be for the residents and the commercial uses. And then you would have the balance of that, which is 100 spaces, would be unregulated public parking. When I say unregulated public parking, I mean anybody can drive and park in those spaces. You don't necessarily have to be a resident of the building or of the apartment complex. You don't necessarily have to be an employee of one of the restaurants within the first, ground floor of the building. But you could be anybody that's just looking to park downtown and ultimately, participate in downtown activities, shop, visit, what have you. Again, this would be built by the developer, but ultimately paid for by the town. Cross-park arrangement. What does a cross-park arrangement mean? So again, there's 420 spaces within this deck. What a lot of municipalities have done when they've done these public-private partnerships, they've worked with the developer to allow or make available all 420 spaces to the public at some point beyond the developer's needs for the residential parking. So just as an example, what we've been fundamentally talking about with the developers, having 420 spaces available to the developer between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Obviously, residents are going to work, they're leaving, and so those spaces would be vacant. So during the day, all 420 spaces would be available to the general public for public parking. Term of the agreement with the parking agreement is 50 years with the ability to renew that agreement. And then, again, the parking management, third-party parking management company would be responsible for managing the day-to-day. The days of having a parking attendant and somebody staying there 24/7 checking people out, those days are far and few. Where nowadays, the parking, just like when you go to the airport, it's managed with technology. You got gates to get in. You have computer equipment, camera equipment to tell you what spaces are available, monitoring the parking. And again, if a resident can't get in or some member of the public can't get out for whatever reason, they would contact this third-party professional parking management company who would be responsible for resolving whatever issue it may be. So those calls are not necessarily coming to the town. So the overall, annual operations, the maintenance would be paid by the developer. That's what we're proposing in the agreement. The developer, again, whether it's paving of the deck, it's electricity, it's cleaning, it's something wrong with the elevator, the developer would be responsible for paying those costs. There would be no charge for parking for the first 10 years. Now, beyond 10 years, the developer could, with approval from the town, within those 320 parking spaces that we talked about reserving for the residential and commercial patrons, could charge for parking after year 10. Okay? Now, does that mean the developer will charge for parking in those 320 spaces? It does not mean that. It means that they could, again, with approval from the town. What the developer is not going to do, the developer is not going to price themselves out of the market, and obviously if the market cannot sustain it, the developer won't charge for parking. And again, that's within those 320 spaces. And when I mean charge for parking, I mean primarily for the daytime parking. Again, whatever parking arrangement between residents and the developer would be worked out for the residential parking spaces, but this is beyond the 10-year mark. And again, those 100, this is not applicable to those 100 town parking spaces that I mentioned earlier. And in the event that, so let's say the developer starts to charge for parking. After that, if there is a profit from charging for parking, the developer has offered to split those proceeds with the town 50-50. Developer gets 50, the town gets 50. If there is a loss, the developer would absorb that 100%. Let me set the expectation, talk a little bit about schedule. So, if the town board approves the development and the development agreement and associate agreements tonight, that does not mean within 20, 30, 40, 60 days there's going to be cranes mobilized downtown. Just want to set this expectation. So, assuming the town board approves the development agreements, the developer would have 120 days to inspect the property, do their due diligence. After that, they would have 360 days to get their entitlements, to get their rezonings, external approvals that they would need from the various approval departments with the state, county. And then after that, the developer would produce construction drawings and have to get those approved by the town. After that, they would close on the property. And then once the developer closes on the property, so assuming a little over 2 years from now, then the developer would have to go vertical, actually constructing the project. So you're looking at a minimum 2 years between now and when the developer would actually construct the project. Now these are number-wise, worst case scenario. We're going to do everything we can to expedite this project through our development review process, but again, wanting to afford the developer applicable time in order to get this done. Now, things within our control, we're absolutely going to do what we can to expedite it and get this project coming to fruition. Then the developer, after that, let's call it 2-year process, the project construction starts. Then the developer's got to build the project, and that'll take a little over 2 years. We're estimating to complete, and then so, little over 4 years, you have a project. So tonight's public hearing, the motion before you is management and staff's recommendation to approve the development agreement, local incentive agreement, purchase sale agreement, and parking agreement between the town of Fuquay-Varina and HMP Holdings LLC for the construction of the downtown mixed-use project as presented and recommended, and approve the project ordinance establishing funding for the parking structure in Budget Amendment 25-09.
Thank you, Deputy. Junior Deputy Manager Seymour.
Thank you.
I'm going to have, I'll reserve my comments till after we have our public hearing. Any questions for staff before we open our public hearing?
I just had one quick clarification question. For the 100 spaces that are not reserved residents, is that a year 11 option to charge or a year 1?
The town could charge on day one if they wanted to. Okay. Again, we've all talked about, we've had a long conversation about this, that's not our intention, right? But I mean, that's for us to, at any point.
Okay.
What it specifically calls out in the parking agreement is that, that grace period of 10 years specific to those 320 spaces.
But not for the residential.
Correct.
Places that non-residents may park in during the other hours.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
How long has the town been working to try to put a project like this together at this location?
Since 2014.
10 years.
10 years, yeah.
Well, I'm glad we're as far along as, I'm glad we're at this point, finally.
I am too. Very, very much so.
Been a lot of hard time and work put into it, assemblage of land, and to get the site ready with what need to be around it, and then with the right developer now at this point. So,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Very
Thank you.
much. The hearing is now open. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of the downtown mixed-use development project? Welcome. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Greg Sandroder. I'm a resident of Cary. My address in Cary is 104 Lake Cliff Court. And I am the managing partner of HMP Holdings, LLC. So, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners, thank you very much for the opportunity to say a few words with you this evening. As you know, in attendance are the adjacent property owners, Benjamin Ho and Nick Mostyn with High House Capital. They own the warehouse project next door. Mr. Seymour accurately described the proposed project. We have enjoyed a collaborative working relationship with Mr. Seymour and Mr. Mitchell in developing this venture together. During the course of our discussions, we've established an excellent professional rapport, and we've developed a clear understanding of each other's goals, needs, and objectives. And in doing so, I believe we have together created an exciting opportunity for the town. We believe, and I should say I believe, that this project holds the potential really to kickstart the vision outlined in your downtown generational master plan to create a thriving, walkable downtown where people live, work, play, where there's a destination that they love to come to. People love downtown Fuquay-Varina today, but we hope this project will bring that to the next level. We hope that this project offers new options in housing, retail shops, restaurants, cultural arts, recreation, and well-appointed streetscapes. We hope this project helps set the stage for the future Piney Woods Park across Main Street. And we hope this project encourages future investment and development by others who can add to the momentum, the variety, and growing tax base for downtown. And what also is very important is that we intend to do a quality job. We intend to do it the right way. And our goal is to achieve a result that you're proud of and that serves the community and the citizenry of Fuquay-Varina. We're very grateful and excited for this opportunity to be considered to be your partner on this transformational project. And I'd be pleased to answer any questions or comments you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. You know, you've been, well, I'll speak my comments here in a moment. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of the downtown mixed-use development project?
Hi, Emily Holloway, 312 Andrew Road. I'd just like to make a little postscript, sir. It is very exciting, and I think you obviously are very intent on doing something really good here, which is great. I would hope that you would consider.
Emily, this is addressing the board, not.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry. I apologize. The 244 apartments that are going to be put into this building, I hope that you will consider working with them to get some of them affordable for some other residents of this community so that they can stay here, live here, work here. And I think, again, we should be working on affordable housing. With 244 apartments, certainly a small percentage of those could be allocated for people that need a lower price place to live and a quality price place to live. The addendum that I would put also is, where is the traffic going to feed from all this development? Fuquay Avenue is very small, barely 2 lanes. Jones Street, 2 lanes. Main Street, 2 lanes. I hope that you will consider how is the traffic going to flow in and out of this development and work with the developer so you get that in place before it happens. I hope that you're thinking about that. Are they going to flow the traffic from the parking garage onto Fuquay Avenue, Main Street? Where's it going to go? And just again, we've got a terrible traffic congestion problem in this town, and it needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of the downtown mixed-use development project? Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to the downtown mixed-use development project? Okay, the hearing is now closed. First of all, Greg, thank you for your hard work with town staff. This is a project, as Charlie mentioned a minute ago, 10 years that the board's been working on assembling land right here in town. And I know that as you go through your design process for site plan and design of the building. You've taken a great effort as you met with board members to take into consideration of the looks of the town and making sure it was something that matched and fit well in our town. So I appreciate your concern with that. And also, I know as you've designed it and will continue designing it right here, any concerns of infrastructure are addressed already through our process. And the town has done an excellent job addressing traffic throughout its town, with 19 different transportation projects being currently funded or under construction. I know this will continue to be a great location and great project right there too. So, Greg, thank you for bringing that information here tonight. Thank you for this project. Jim, I appreciate your hard work along with management and other staff members on this project right here. This is a $70 million project, which when you look at Fuquay-Varina's portion of taxes, look at appreciation and where this goes, this is somewhere in the neighborhood of approximately a 7-year payback, which is an excellent return from the standpoint of that for a economic development incentive. Often you see projects out there that government does that takes much longer than that. So thank you for your investment and thank you for this. And I do believe this is a partnership that the board has worked hard for to address right here. We hear comments within our town about issues with parking, and so here is an opportunity. The town is building a parking deck addressing parking with that and making parking more convenient at that time. I think that I saw a study today as I was on parking and talking about transportation, and it talked about downtowns that are walking mobility to the location, and talked about, you walk 2 blocks from a parking deck or parking location to your place of business, and that's a short walk. And then it showed the distances of parking at Walmart parking lot and walking to the front entrance and then to the back of the store, and that is a much further distance than what people typically walk into downtown. And so the walkability and benefits of this project and parking deck and addressing those areas of our infrastructure coming to town is going to make a huge difference right there, helping to continue progress Fuquay-Varina. This is a catalyst project that is going to help launch our downtown Fuquay-Varina on for additional projects. And I know the town board and the developer also hopes that more projects come in behind this, because they thrive together as more happens right there and gives options in our downtown. And so this is going a great direction. It's going to be a great project that this board is going to be very, very proud of. Any comments by any board members? If not, we'll entertain a motion. Read the motion. Motion so moved, or
So enthusiastically moved.
we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion unanimously carries. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Look forward to this project. Next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. What's the board's pleasure on the items on the consent agenda? Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move that we approve items 8A, 8B, 8C, 8D, 8E, 8F, 8G, H, I, J, and K, as presented and recommended.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Administrative report, preliminary subdivision plat, Holland South Estates, subdivision SUB PR 2024-04. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Planning Director Davison. Pam, you're back on it.
I'm back on. I am submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents in the official records of the town. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider a preliminary subdivision plat submitted by Curry Engineering, PLLC, for the Holland South Estate subdivision located at 1605 Holland Road. It is on 25.43 acres in the residential agricultural zoning district. The preliminary subdivision plat proposes 24 single-family lots meeting the standards for a conventional subdivision. The minimum lot size permitted is 20,000 square feet, and the minimum lot size provided is 22,122 square feet, with the average lot size being 28,960 square feet. Although no open space is required, the subdivision is proposing 7.5 acres of open space. This subdivision qualifies as an infill subdivision per section 9-1608 of the LDO, and as such, shall only be required to dedicate right-of-way per the community transportation plan. Public water and sewer are currently unavailable. Annexation will be required prior to construction drawing approval so that water can be extended to serve the subject property by the developer. As a low-density subdivision, these lots will be served by private septic systems. At the April 15th, 2024 regular meeting, the Planning Board found the subdivision plat consistent with the town requirements and voted unanimously to recommend approval. The motion tonight is to approve the Holland South subdivision, SUB PR 2024-04, as presented and recommended.
Thank you, Plan Director Davison. Any questions by board members? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the Holland South Estate subdivision plat as presented and recommended.
We have a motion. Do we have a motion and a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 10B, presentation letter of support, microtransit. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Planning Director Davison.
Last one for the night. I'm submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents in the official record of the town. The purpose of this agenda item is to receive a presentation of recommendations from the on-demand mobility strategy study developed by Go Raleigh. The current FRX route operated by Go Raleigh serves only weekday peak hours as an express route to Wake Tech and Raleigh. Ridership declined significantly during the pandemic and has not recovered, serving an average of only 9 individual riders per day. Wake Transit's goal is at least 30 riders per day. Despite efforts by both town staff and Go Raleigh to increase ridership and reduce travel burdens, the FRX is severely underperforming, and Go Raleigh has identified it is no longer sustainable. This past summer, Go Raleigh began an on-demand mobility strategy study to determine microtransit feasibility for several routes they operate, and they invited the town to be part of the study. The study determined that the town is a prime candidate to pivot to microtransit service. The consultant VIA determined that through Go Raleigh study that the Fuquay-Varina would be suited for a service that operates as a dial-a-ride with 2 vehicles covering a significantly expanded service area all day, 6 days a week. We would be able to maintain our existing connection to Wake Tech, which would still provide access to downtown Raleigh, and we would significantly expand access to the areas shown in pink, which would provide service around the Judd Parkway core from both high schools to Wake Tech and up to Holly Springs near the hospital and Walmart Shopping Center. The recommended fares would be comparable to other rides in the system, but many of the microtransit systems continue to operate fare-free. The switch to microtransit could increase ridership, reduce the current cost per rider, and stay cost neutral for Go Raleigh. With town board support, Go Raleigh will apply for funding from Campo for the fiscal year 26 to procure vehicles and to wrap with branding. The earliest implementation would likely be early 2026 at no cost to the town. The FRX will remain in service until the microtransit launches. The suggested motion tonight is to approve a letter of support for the Go Raleigh recommendations of the on-demand mobility strategy study as presented and recommended. Pretty cool.
You know, anytime we get a chance, we can bring a service to our citizens. It's not costing taxpayers here the money that it costs from other areas of government. We're glad to receive those opportunities. Any further questions by board members? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the letter of support for the Go Raleigh recommendations on the on-demand mobility strategy study as presented and recommended.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda, item 10C, consultant selection, Public Service Center, Phase 2 design. More information about the agenda item will be presented by Public Works Director Stevenson. Tracy, you don't get to be on the agenda but so often.
I'm not up here as much as I used to be, no.
Right.
But it's cool to be back occasionally. So tonight we're bringing to you our agenda item for consultant selection for the Public Service Center Phase 2 design. This is something that you guys talked about in the budget process and budgeted funds for us to do this year. So the purpose of the item is to consider selection of our best qualified firm in accordance with state statutes for selecting professional services. So we sent out a RFQ. We received 4 proposals back. A team of myself, Assistant Manager Matthews, Assistant Manager Seymour, Public Utilities Director Wagner, Parks and Rec Director Cox. Basically everybody with a vested interest in the facility was on the review panel. The results of our review of the technical proposals from these firms led us to determine that the team of Withers and Ravenel with Teeple Architects was our top scoring top scoring consultant. In our second place was HH Architecture. And so at this point, what we're going to do, pending your approval of our top consultant, is we're going to move on to the scope and fee selection of that. We do have a fiscal note that says, that we did have this funding budgeted to do this design for this year. So your motion for tonight is to designate the team of Withers Ravenel and Teeple Architects as the best qualified and preferred firm, and HH Architecture as the next ranked preferred firm to perform the design of the Phase 2 expansion of the Public Service Center, and to authorize the town manager or his designee to negotiate scope and fee subject to the town attorney's review as to form. And I did neglect to mention at the beginning that we're submitting all these materials to the record for the town. Any questions regarding our process or any of the candidates? I'd be glad to answer.
When do you think timeline is to go through the design on this and then next?
Plan will be to complete design this fiscal year, and then construction would begin sometime mid next year. Once we get through scope and fee, we'll nail that down to real dates. But
mid next fiscal year, not 6 months from now, next year.
So next fiscal year, yes. The construction would begin in the beginning of next fiscal year. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any further questions from board members for staff? Okay, we can entertain a motion so move.
Mayor, I move that we designate the team of Withers Ravenel and Teeple Architects as the best qualified and preferred firm, and HH Architecture as the next ranked preferred firm to perform the design of the Phase 2 expansion of the Public Service Center, and authorize the town manager or designee to negotiate scope and fees subject to the town attorney review as to form.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Tracy. All right. Other business. Town managers report.
Thank you, Mayor. A few things just to bring to your attention about several of our departments in the organization. I don't want to beat on this too much, but as you recognized earlier this evening, tonight is Joanne Crabtree's last town board meeting before her retirement, and just want to personally say a few words about Joanne. She has been, Mayor, as you mentioned, employed with the town for the past 5 years, and in that time she's just done an exemplary job in her capacity as finance director. She's led the effort to improve numerous financial policies, maintain the town's books in a transparent and comprehensive approach, advance the town's bond ratings, navigate hundreds of millions of dollars of bond issuances, and expand her department's services. So, Joanne, I just want to say you are appreciated, valued, and you'll be missed here with the town. I want to thank you. The finance department has also, as you know, tonight completed the audit process, and here we are again with the wicked cycle of getting ready to start the budget process for the fiscal year 26. So we'll do some preliminary work on that towards the end of this calendar year. We'll really kick it off in earnest with our town board strategic planning retreat in the beginning of the year, and then really hit the process hard through April. As far as our HR department, they're working through the hiring process of a couple of director-level positions in the organization, as well as other various positions in the organization, wrapping up the annual appraisal process and working with our consultants on the pay and classification assessment. Our communications department has commenced work on the annual State of the Town video in concert with the mayor. And the work is occurring to update as well the town's brand guide. And I am pleased to share with you that our downtown historic banners that you may have seen recently put up in downtown, they won a graphic design award, graphic design for exterior signage that was awarded by Graphic Design USA. So very appealing to the eye and award winning banners in our downtown area. As far as Public Works goes, the Public Works staff has been working hard over the last week or so to install Christmas decorations throughout town. The goal is to get those all up, checked and operating by Thanksgiving. I think we'll meet that goal. And Tracy and his team have been working to go through the process of hiring for a fleet manager position in our organization that was funded as a part of this year's budget. So that is moving along. I'll have more to report on that in the coming weeks. Our IT department has been working with our payment vendor to accept payment for all fees online. That's something that we've set as a goal to be able to accomplish this year, and I think we'll hit that goal as well. Our town hall gate, you may have noticed, has been in the up position for quite a while. There was a vehicle, not one of ours, thankfully, that ran into it in the parking lot, and now it doesn't function properly, so that's getting ready to be replaced for security purposes in our town hall parking lot. And we are working, our IT department is working to install digital signage in our Parks and Rec and Art Center facilities. So we're going to be upgrading some of our digital signage and information sharing in those facilities this year as well. Additionally, I want to just recognize Scott and our IT department. They held a cyber tabletop exercise on October 30th with all town departments and other consultants and IT professionals from outside of the organization in order to help train and prepare us for any unfortunate circumstance in the IT realm. And so it was an excellent use of our time. And I want to thank Scott and his team for the work that they did to prepare us for that. Parks and Recreation, winter youth sports is underway. We had, again, record turnout of participation and registration for winter youth sports, and certainly the community is going to benefit a great deal when the Hilltop Needmore Town Park Community Center opens, and we got the use of those wonderful basketball courts that will be able to be used for our winter youth sports program. Interviews are getting ready to commence for the library, the design of the renovations to Library Park. So that'll be something exciting to report on first of the year. And the elevator was installed at the Hilltop Needmore Town Park Community Center, which marks a major milestone in that project, and working our way towards completion and getting to our goal of being able to open early part of next year. The Arts Center has 7 great events that are happening between now and mid-December. The unfortunate part is most of them are already sold out, so if you don't have a ticket, you might be able to get one on StubHub or the secondary market maybe. But they do include events like the Embers, the Fuquay-Varina Corral, and the Nutcracker. All great events that we're excited about at our Arts Center this season. Our police department's got a lot of activity going on. The CALIA accreditation site assessment is currently underway. We've had some promotions within the department recently through a promotional process that was very elaborate and extensive. Richard Connerly was promoted to the captain position. Jonathan Wells was promoted to lieutenant, and Kevin Boyd was promoted to sergeant. So if you see any of those 3 in the community, congratulate them on their career achievements. Detective Joshua Hillgartner and Detective Ryan Schulte obtained their advanced law enforcement certifications, and Officer Glenn Ganzenmuller obtained his intermediate law enforcement certification from the North Carolina Criminal Justice Education and Training Standards Commission. So we want to congratulate those officers for advancing through their career certification process, and we'll recognize them at a future meeting as well. And then our police department did hold a successful mental health resources event that was hosted since our last board meeting. So making some great strides in that regard as well. Our fire department had an excellent open house this past month. The weather was perfect. We had over 1,000 people that were estimated to have attended throughout that event. So congratulations to Chief Jones and his team on another great open house and another way for our community to engage with our fire service professionals. The fire department ISO inspection was completed on October 31st, and by our measures anyway, everything went very well with that. The results should be available in 3 to 4 months, and so we'll be patiently waiting to see how that turns out. We do have new recruits, Michael Conniff and Garrett Butts. They have completed their orientation process and were assigned to a shift this past Friday, and they are performing well, and there's plans to introduce them at a future town board meeting as well as their badge pinning at that board meeting. So I'll keep you posted on when that is. Captain Josh Herring and firefighter Riley Prince recently attended the Carolina Fire Days Training School in Charlotte, and the school offered 2 days of classroom lectures followed by 2 days of extensive hands-on scenarios at local training facilities. So another way that we're continuing to invest in our fire service professionals with their professional development goals. I want to thank them for taking the initiative to do that. Planning department's been staying very busy since our last board meeting. You obviously have seen some of their work tonight in Pam's presentations. Co-compliance officer Rich Johnson successfully completed the certified zoning officer training through the UNC School of Government and passed the certification exam. So we want to congratulate Rich on that. Another way he's continuing to add value to our organization and to the planning department. Town staff, in conjunction with the county and other Wake County municipalities, have recently completed the update to the hazard mitigation plan, and we're awaiting FEMA's review and approval so that we can bring it to the town board for official adoption. So be on the lookout for that in the coming meetings as well. You might have recognized some water flowing across Main Street in the vicinity of the Hill water tank this past week. We did our routine maintenance and cleaning of that tank, where we have to empty the tank, go through the cleaning process, and refill it. Numerous capital projects continue to advance. Mike and his team have got literally hundreds of millions of dollars of capital projects in motion right now, and so those projects continue to advance. And Tony Brooks and Arziah Yanovich started Monday as distribution operators in the Public Utilities Department. So we want to welcome them to our team here in Fuquay-Varina. Our engineering department, the Downtown Varina Pedestrian Improvements Project, is advancing through its various stages and should be before the town board for award consideration by the end of the calendar year. And advertising for on-call professional service bids is currently in motion. And we did receive Federal Highway Administration construction authorization for the Northeast Judd Broad Street intersection operational improvements. This near the food line and where in the vicinity of where the new Fuquay-Varina Family Entertainment Center, I believe it's got a different name now, but that's what it was originally called, is under construction. Big intersection project. It's going to be a nice improvement for our community, but another little bit of a pain point while it's under construction. So orange cones galore. That's what we're looking at here in the end of 2024, and we will be looking at in all of 2025. But that's a good thing. That's progress happening before our eyes. So bids will be opened in January. Let me say this: staff anticipates advertising this project next week. Bids will be opened in January, and an agenda item will be brought before the town board for award. It's anticipated in February. And construction is anticipated to begin in the spring of 2025 and last approximately 12 to 18 months for that intersection project. We will be interviewing for economic development director positions here in the next coming weeks, so I'll keep you informed about that process as well. And just some other high-level information to share with you since we last met. We successfully sold $70 million in bonds for the Terrible Creek wastewater treatment plant expansion project. The Fuquay-Varina Downtown Association held a well-attended and very fun downtown trick-or-treat event. We had an amazing groundbreaking that you all were at for the Sanford Water Filtration Facility, kicking off what is widely viewed and considered as a model regional partnership between Sanford, Holly Springs, Pittsboro, and Fuquay-Varina, one that I think will likely end up being a case study in North Carolina local government about how regional projects can be successful. And then the Fuquay-Varina Downtown Association also held a very successful and well-attended Barbecue Blues and Brews event. So we want to congratulate them on some very successful events. I know Christy's here was here in the room a little while ago. She may have left, but a lot of hard work coming out of the FVDA, their army of volunteers, and the whole team that it goes to put on successful projects and successful events for their group. So I want to thank all of them. With that, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to answer any questions that you or the board might have, and otherwise that completes my comments for tonight. I will draw your attention to your agenda materials. You do have a financial quarterly report, first quarterly report for the fiscal year. Sometimes the first quarter is a little bit challenging because we don't have all the data we need to really truly understand trends. We'll get more of that over the next quarter, but so far things look to be pretty good. Coffee with a Cop at Starbucks listed there. The tree lighting and holiday celebration in downtown Fuquay-Varina is also listed in your agenda materials. And 2 first readings, the zoning map amendments for your consideration that'll come before you at a future town board meeting. Happy to answer any questions y'all might have.
Thank you, Manager. No questions for management? We'll move into board member comments. Commissioner Harris, any comments?
Just short comments, Mr. Mayor. Last week from Wednesday until Saturday, I was able to attend the National League of Cities City Summit, and the league was celebrating its 100 years of existence, and we all know that we participated. And I just wanted to say that I was sitting at the table with some people from various parts of the country, and one of the people there was from the staff at NLC, and they mentioned and highlighted the picture in the little video that we did from Fuquay-Varina, and they complimented us on a couple of things. The first thing they complimented on was the application process, how the application process hit on all the points that NLC wanted. And the second part that they mentioned was the fact that when we took the picture at the festival, it really hit home what it meant to be in a community that is enriched and that looks at and portrayed a higher quality of life. So during the general session, they flashed Fuquay-Varina up on the screen, so a lot of people know about Fuquay-Varina, which I thought was just excellent. There were so many highlights and so many great things that occurred at the conference. There were over 4,000 attendees, and of course, these were people from all over the United States. And the league, of course, its mission is similar to other leagues in the other state leagues, which is to advocate for cities, towns, and villages throughout the United States. The league celebrating its 100-year existence was started in 1924 in Kansas City, and we've had 2 individuals from North Carolina to rise to be league presidents. And the first president from North Carolina was Ferd Harrison, who was from Scotland Neck, North Carolina, small town. And then the second president was James Mitchell from the city of Charlotte. So North Carolina was present. We were one of the largest delegations to go to the league. There were a lot of workshops. There was a great deal of celebration, and I thought that it was a thoroughly good, exciting time, especially to know that Fuquay-Varina had been recognized nationally. Thank you. Susan, you did a good job.
Thank you, Commissioner Harris. Commissioner Adcock, any comments?
I just wanted to note, I thought it was interesting, the town of Cary had a park and rec bond on the ballot this past election, and it failed. And we had the same thing here in Fuquay-Varina happen to us last year. You know, there was a time in Wake County when you could almost assume that a park and rec bond was going to get approved. I just think the citizens are being a little more discerning. Inflation, increases in property tax. But I think we've, as a town, have maybe I don't know that there's any really thing to learn. I think we learned it the hard way. But I think it's not just a issue with Fuquay-Varina. I think it's something that in this area right now, I think folks are just being, as I said, a little more discerning on what they will and won't approve. And so moving forward, I just think we need to keep that in mind and make sure that when we do put these bonds out to the public, that we do a good job of educating them and let folks know why we're doing what we're doing. But that was really it. I just thought it was interesting that I would not have thought a park and rec bond in the town of Cary would have failed. And it's just an unusual environment, I think, that we're dealing with.
Thank you, Commissioner Adcock. Commissioner Watch, any comments?
Yes, sir. So I had the privilege to attend a Triangle Community Coalition meeting for the first time. I know Mayor Massengale and Commissioner Haynes have done that in the past, and this was my first opportunity to do it. And I would say that I learned as much as they were hoping that the participants or that the audience would learn from us, just from listening to. We had the mayor pro tem of Morrisville there, who has been the mayor pro tem, or who has been on the board for about 11 years. And then we had a newer commissioner from Cary participating. And a lot of it was what our personal approach was as commissioners. And then the audience was filled with developers and people related to development and real estate. So I found it very, very interesting and would love to participate again with that. That was a fun time. I wanted to also share that I've been meeting with the Fuquay-Varina High School 50th Anniversary Committee. They've been planning for the 50th anniversary of the high school. And one of the things that I've been suggesting to the committee is, I said on our board, we have Fuquay-Varina High School graduates at different times, and it would be very interesting, I believe I'd share this with Commissioner Harris too, for these board members to come back and talk about their experiences at the high school. And so I believe the principal is going to follow up with Adam and with our board members about coming back and speaking. They're planning an entire year of events, so it's not just like a one-day thing or a one-month thing, but an entire year, and they're incorporating different community members, and it's not just athletics, it's academic accomplishments, and very exciting event that was forever away and now is coming closer and closer to fruition. And just wanted to say that I'm excited about our tree lighting and our menorah lighting this year. That's exciting to have that in our community. And thank you to our town staff, management, for helping to bring forward this mixed-use plan that has been on the horizon since I've been on the board, since 2014. And today, as has been said, the sun was shining bright, red letter banner day, all those things to get to actually consider and approve it. Very, very exciting moment for, over the last 10 years. And excited about the Junior Women's Club Galas coming up on Friday. That's always an exciting event. I always look forward to going to that every year and appreciate that. And finally, happy birthday to our town attorney.
Thank you, Commissioner Watch. Commissioner Haynes, any comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Last week, while I finished, was our last meeting for the Legislative Policy Committee for the North Carolina League of Municipalities. We have put together a group of A goals and B goals that I think align with many of the things we have going on in town that we can go lobby for in these next sessions to come up. They are focused on things from, we've heard even today, housing, taxes, definitely infrastructure, definitely disaster relief, and different things that we'll be going after. So it'll be going to the board of directors now to trim this goals down and be presented, and that's what they'll be using as our legislative goals for the North Carolina League of Municipalities. Definitely enjoyed it. It was a feisty group. It gets a little feisty when you have people from all over the state. It gets very interesting because everybody's passions are totally different when it comes to their towns. So some of the bigger cities compared to the smaller cities, yeah, it gets a little feisty, but definitely was enjoyable to sit on. I as well attended the the National League of Cities Summit. Tampa really showed out for sure. I don't even think Commissioner Harris, I know he's seen it on the screen when we were inside, but I don't know if you've seen that they shine on the Embassy Suites, which was 20 stories, a whole interactive video with sound and everything, with the executive director speaking on the side of the building, 20 stories tall. But when in the rim, it showed Fuquay-Varina on the road show map as well when the bus was riding around. So that was amazing to see Fuquay-Varina that big on a 20-story Embassy Suite. So that was very good. I had time to actually talk again with, we had that amazing groundbreaking in Sanford, and I actually had some time to sit down with the Sanford delegation that was there as well as the mayor of Pittsburgh as well. So he was there too. We sat down and had some time to talk. Also, the Hope Mills Parks and Rec director spoke very highly of his visit to the Community Center North project. So he was asking, and going back to, which was interesting, going back to Commissioner Adcock, he asked about our bond, because they need to put a bond on the floor to help with their community center project. So that was a great discussion on different things. So that was very enjoyable as well. And as Commissioner Harris said, North Carolina was the third largest delegation there, right behind Florida and California. So that speaks very highly of the North Carolina delegation, as many people that were showed there. Also, I'm very excited about the micro transit plan that was presented today. I think that's great, especially because it's not hitting our pockets at all. So that's very awesome that we can extend both ways from Fuquay-Varina to help our citizens. That was definitely great. Also, this Saturday at Pondex Community Center, we'll be doing our annual Thanksgiving giveaway with the turkeys and fixings and all that stuff like that from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. So we're planning to do around, hopefully, at least 200 plus families so in our town. So we're excited about that. It's going to be a great busy day. And also, whenever I was walking through the exhibit hall, the people from Kalia stopped me and said they saw I had on a polo. And they said, we're coming to your town next week. Well, so it was interesting that they stopped me and noticed that and recognized that. So that was very interesting. They stopped me when I was in the exhibit hall walking around. So that was thanks to for Susan for that, all that branding that we have on these shirts that everybody sees. But that's and also actually Clarence Anthony, the executive director, said something about our roadshow video as well. So that was a highlight because he sees all of it and traveled all around. So that was amazing. And also because I sit on the Small Cities Council, we had a great convening, which was the largest Small Cities Council, which we are right on the cusp of not being a small city anymore. When it comes to North Carolina League, we have about 10,000 more. We'll be into the large cities council from the Small Cities Council. That was interesting as well. And that's it, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Haynes. Mayor Pro Tem Gardner, any comments?
Just something really quick. With the growth that we see and everything moving at the pace that it moves now, it's very dynamic, and we have wonderful people that come and go, like Joanne. And this Barbecue Blues and Brews Festival that was put on by FEDA this year, the staff at FEDA, there are 2.5 of them. There are 2 full-time people and then 1 part-time person. All 3 were new employees that had never done that before. And they did such a great job. I was really proud of them, and they were constantly having to, revamp and, change plans, and very positive about how helpful and supportive the town had been of their efforts, and so thrilled with the venue of, with the opportunity to use that parking lot. So I just love to see that we're able to adapt and change and still hold on to these things that make us feel like a small community with a big heart, even though we're knocking on 50,000 people. So it was a pleasure just to hear. I was there Friday night and didn't get to see it on Saturday, but everything I heard was very positive, and I was really proud that the town was such a great partner to these young people that are running the new show now. So it was a great event.
Very good event. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Gardner. I was going to follow up on that. One of my comments I was going to make exactly was with the Barbecue and Blues and Brews Festival. Our FDA staff and volunteers involved, our town staff that was involved, right, our town staff that was there, and the Varina parking lot. I think that parking lot location really turned out what we intended it to be, a not just a parking facility, but a place to have events at in Varina. And so excited about having more events in Varina side of town and over there at that parking deck location too. I know comments been made about trying to have some of our concerts over there at Fuquay-Varina side, and so look forward to that hopefully next year also. Chief Jones, Fire Department Open House. Adam, I know mentioned it earlier. I know it probably feels like it was a while ago since we didn't have our first meeting in November, and that was a Saturday right after our last meeting, so it's been probably 3 weeks, but that was a great turnout that day. The weather couldn't have been even better for you, and a great turnout. Kids and adults had a good time. One of the best things is the buckets of water, and my youngins wearing socks and flip-flops, and how do you think that turned out on their feet? But it was a great event. I know your firefighters enjoyed it too and did a great job there. So thank y'all for your hard work in the community. The community really enjoys that, and they learn stuff too at the same time. And I think that's huge. Anytime we can have an event that not just brings fun, but awareness at the same time for that, and so that's enjoyable there. Management mentioned earlier in their report about art center shows selling out. Maureen, you have Embers sold out coming up next week, or maybe 1 or 2 seats left, but sold out. You have the Nutcracker. Those are probably close to being sold out at this point. Nutcracker is, and then but you got more than one show, so I'm getting at, and they're all sold out or close to it. Perfect. That's what I thought there. And then the third one, the Corral coming up is always a great time at Christmas time, but then plus all the other events that you have there going on. You have a crowd in front of it at the Christmas parade time, which we'll have one more meeting before. I think one more meeting before then. And anyway, it's great with those shows and opportunities right there that are happening, and that the Art Center continues to be a thriving place, exactly what we want it to be, and you ran it from day one. So thank you for what you're doing there and continuing those events. And I think we got to continue looking at next year how we can help you with having more dates, not that you can handle more events necessarily, but you know what I mean. When you have a great, what I mean by that is, for instance, the Embers only come on Thanksgiving Eve. I know that, but like some of the shows out there, some of them demand 2 shows. Is what we're going out there. You're doing a great job. I'm not trying to overwhelm you on that right there. And that's a positive thing, because that's what you always want, it to be filled and used. The alternative is nobody's going. That's not what you want either. So it's bittersweet, I know, but thank you for that too. Management, I believe we do not have a closed session. Is that correct?
There is no closed session recommended for this evening.
All right, we're entertaining a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.